in this area, for a net increase of approximately 1,993 residential units. However, of these new developments, only 6 of them will contain parking spaces. Additionally, there are 6 off-street parking facilities as shown in this map here, within a 1/3 mile radius of the subject site. And since 2003, these spaces have been reduced by, the number of spaces has been reduced by 89 spaces, going from 660 spaces to 571. The applicant is seeking a special permit pursuant to the Manhattan Core Parking Regulations specific to residential growth to facilitate the development of a 99-space attended public parking garage. As of right, 46 spaces are permitted. If approved, the special permit will allow an additional 53 spaces. These are just images looking at the building which is currently under construction. This is the level side where the proposed parking garage entry will be, a single 20-foot wide curb cut. And this is looking along the Orchard Street side and the building facade. The parking will be located on the ground level, the cellar level, and a sub-cellar level. This is Ludlow Street, where the entry to the garage will be located through a single 20-foot wide curb cut with reservoir spaces. 5 of them will be located at this level, and the remaining 5 will go into the cellar level. They'll have a capacity of 73 spaces, and the additional spaces will be provided in the sub-cellar level with 25 stackers. In order the garage is proposed to be 24 hours and accommodate 10 bicycle spaces and have an internal staircases for circulation throughout the garage. In order to facilitate this development, the applicant is seeking a special permit pursuant to sections 1345 and 13451 for additional parking spaces due to residential growth. As required by the special permit, there are a number of findings that must be met related to vehicular entrance, vehicular and pedestrian traffic and circulation, neighborhood character, and the appropriateness of the number of proposed parking spaces in relation to recent development trends in close proximity to the development site.
Questions? Mr. Knuckles?
So, Calvin, the rendering below, is that Ludlow Street that we're looking at?
Yes.
There's the entrance.
All right, so the garage entrance would be on the other side, right? Is that it?
That's on Ludlow.
Yes.
Looks like there's a canopy.
So is that the garage entrance that's depicted there?
Yes.
Right here? Okay.
Is there another option? There's no other option.
Yes, this is Ludlow Street, and this is what the depiction.
Already started construction.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Levin?
Picking up where my colleague left off. So is that an old building? On the board on the left, right, and the picture on the right, there, is that an old building? No. Is that new construction there?
This is new construction.
And then is it going to continue all the way over to the adjoining building?
To this side?
No, to the north.
To this side?
It looks like,
No, it's just one, like 20. Yeah,
is there a
It's the same building.
hole in the, is there a setback at some point
There's a setback.
from the street line?
Looks like it.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
It seems like currently it's up to this point. I'm not sure if it's going to continue. And this rendering here looks like it adjoins to this.
Yeah, which from a streetscape standpoint looks a whole lot better. And it also looks as if they've treated that blank sidewall of the building to the north with something that, you know, that's going to be hanging out there forever. So it would be nice if it wasn't just a blank concrete wall. And maybe since this is a special permit, we have an opportunity to talk about that. But my real question is, from the plans, are you sure that, do 99 cars really fit in this space? It looks very constrained for that number of
There will be
cars.
25, but there will be 25 stackers here. And on each stacker.
Wait, I
how
thought
many-
it was a fewer number of stackers. And I don't, you know, I don't need to get in, is it 25 stackers? Okay, so
Yeah.
that's 50 cars. But then on the floor, then that's the sub-cellar level. And then how many cars park on the cellar level? And it looks like you have to drive down, and then you gotta back and fill to do a three-point turn to get to the ramp that goes down to the sub-cellar?
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's beyond today's discussion to get into the precise details of how it works, but my eyebrow is up.
We'll try to.
I
keep
can't
it
put my
down
eyebrow
through the process.
Right, like that?
Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Young?
So is this, in terms of timing of when they're coming in for this request and where they are in their construction, is this sort of typical of when you would expect a project to come in to expand the number of parking spaces that they plan to have in a building? I mean, presumably they plan for the 43 that they're allowed as of right.
This is 46 as of right,
46.
and they're just seeking a 53 additional spaces. They did submit an application, but they did not meet the timing for when the Manhattan core parking regulations were certified, so they had to resubmit another application.
Okay.
So they did apply earlier, but the Manhattan core parking regulations were certified before they were able to get in their previous special permit application under the old previous regulations, so they had to redo a new application to be in line with the new parking regs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Certified, noting Ms. Levin's
Yes.
Eyebrow raising.
eyebrow-raising enterprise.
Thank you, Calvin. Let's move to item number 4, page 225, a proposed special permit for use, bulk, and accessory parking for predominantly residential building along West 23rd Street. Our presenter is Dominic. That's item number 4, page 225.
Let me just say at the, before Dominic starts, that as many of you have heard from me, we have instituted a policy of certifying when applications are complete, not necessarily when we like them, not necessarily when they're perfect. I think this application, in our view, is complete for purposes of certification, but has many troubling aspects to it, at least in my view, which you'll decide for yourselves. But in any event, Dominic, with that ominous introduction, the floor is yours.
Just not sure, the boards are quite large, so I'll do my best. Good afternoon. This is an application for 2 special permits to facilitate a new 106,000 square foot, 24 and 10-story mixed-use building at 39-41 West 23rd Street. And it would propose to contain 40 dwelling units, 800 square feet of ground floor retail, and 50 parking spaces. The site is here between 23rd and 24th Streets and between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue in Community District 5. And the first special permit would be pursuant to Section 74-711, and that allows for bulk and use modification for sites located in historic districts. And here, the request is that it would modify rear yard regulations and street wall and height and sky exposure plane regulations in your manufacturing district. And also, it would also modify manufacturing use regulations so it could be a residential building in this manufacturing district. The other special permit is to allow an accessory parking garage with 50 spaces. So here is what the site looks like. Lot 20 is a through lot, 6,600 square feet. Lot 60 is also part of the zoning lot at about 1,500 square feet. And this tax lot here, which currently has a residential building on it, is part of the zoning lot and will be contributing about 24,000 square feet to the development. Zoning lot, as I noted, is entirely in a manufacturing district, M16 to be exact, and it's bordered by a C64 district across West 23rd Street to the north, C52 district to the mid-block to the east, also a C63A and a C64X districts in the mid-block to the west. Residential, of course, is not allowed in a manufacturing district, and this M16 has an FAR of 10. So a little bit of history. In 2006, for a portion of the development site, that is Lot 20 and this lot here, the conduit out Lot 7501, a special permit was obtained pursuant to 74-711 for rear yard and bulk modification and use modification. And what that would have facilitated was a building kind of similar to what is being proposed, which I'll show you in a minute. That would be a 21-story tower on 23rd Street and a 3-story tower on 24th Street. The special permit was renewed in 2011, and that renewal will terminate in 2015, and they have another 3-year renewal which is obtainable by the owners. That development was never built, but in 2011, when Lot 60 became available, it was added to the proposal. And just to note, LPC did look at the proposal and issued a certificate of appropriateness that will be in effect until 2019. So this here shows the 23rd Street, I'm sorry. This one. No, that one. This here shows the 23rd Street frontage. I apologize, this one. So this shows the 23rd Street frontage here. Building would rise 21 stories and max out about 280 feet. And this shows the 24th Street side frontage. Here it maxes out at about 130 feet. Here, this is an east elevation. And I just want to point out that with the east elevation, it has a setback here on 23rd Street, and on 24th Street, there's also a setback here of about 10 feet and here of 15 feet. As for the ground floor, this would be what the ground floor would look like. The parking is proposed to be here on 24th Street. Here's an entrance for the residences. This would be the 800 square foot residential portion here on 23rd Street, and this is the main residential entrance. The elevators are located there, and this here is a small outdoor area that's open to the sky. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the parking now, and then I'll discuss the proposed waivers. So as I noted, the below-grade parking facility is accessed on 24th Street. Right there is a 22-foot curb cut that allows entrance here and then egress here. There's 3 reservoir spaces, 1, 2, 3. And then there, the circular thing you see there is a turntable. Now, how that works is that residences would drive their car up to the turntable. They'd get out, and this would just be also done by either key code or key fob. They'd get out, and the mechanical parking facility would then take the car down 1 level and bring it down to here. Now, this shows the stackers 1 level below, and this particular stacker here is the elevator that brings the cars down. This is the 50 parking spaces, and this is a cross-section that shows the parking spaces. So what would work is, the car would be twisted, go down this way, and then there'd be sort of like a conveyor belt that would bring the car to the parking lot, or if there's a space available, would bring the space up to the car. And the car would be put into the turntable and brought down to the parking space. Just want to say that I've been told that average, it would take about 4 minutes for the cars to be parked in this manner. So as I noted, the applicant requested waivers for the bulk and the use. And in terms, I'd like to start talking about the rear yards. So in this area, because it's a through lot, there needs to be a rear yard equivalent of 40 feet within the portion of the site that is a true through lot. Now, there is a 40-foot portion between the 2 buildings, but with this rule, the 40-foot rear yard equivalent must be centered within a center line between 23rd Street and 24th Street. Now here, the 40-foot yard is not centered. So what happens at this part of the building, which the cut is located here, there's an encroachment of 9 feet within that 40-foot yard right here, from the 14th story all the way up to the top of the building. Now at this portion of the building, the same rear yard equivalent rule applies. This is farther to the west. In this area, the 40-foot yard, there's just a small 2-foot 8-inch encroachment from the building at that location. Now, for the portion of the site where it's not a true through lot, this little notch here, you can see on this board, that there needs to be a 20-foot rear yard. So here, the 20-foot rear yard is located here, and the encroachment is 4 feet 9 inches on the smaller 24th Street building. Now, very quickly, I'd just like to go over the street wall and setback waivers. So in this location on 23rd Street, the maximum base is 85 feet. Here, the building is proposing the base to be 195 feet 9 inches. So waiver is required here. Then also there's a penetration of the sky exposure plane. Sky exposure plane here is 1 to 5.6 ratio. On 24th Street, again, 85 feet is the maximum base height. Maximum base here rises to 117 feet, so there need to be a waiver there. And also, even though, yes, there is still a penetration of the sky exposure plane, which here is 1 to 2.7. And while here, there should be a 20-foot setback here. I guess setback doesn't really matter at this point. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about then the parking. So to have a accessory parking facility with 50 spaces here, a special permit is required. Actually, the special permits are under 1345, 13451, and also aspects of the parking facility must be approved under 1320. So in order for the commission to permit the parking facility, these particular special permits, the findings must be made. Now, in order to address the findings for 13451 specifically, the applicants, using methodology provided by city planning, examined the change in residential units and residential parking spaces within a 1/3 mile radius of this site. And it would be for a period from 2003 to 2016, which we sometimes call the look-back period. And the goal is to show that the proposed accessory parking garage would serve the parking needs of the development and is not excessive for the area. So using the data, the applicants found that there was an increase in the number of residential units of 4,406 residential units from 2003 to 2016. Also during that period, there was an increase of 493 residential parking spaces. So the ratio of residential parking spaces to residential units was 11.3. And then if they were to add in, as we asked them to do, the 50 parking spaces in this development and the 40 units in this development, then the ratio would be 12.1. Now, usually as a rule of thumb, staff looks at about 20% in Community District 5, so 12.1 would be far below the rule of thumb for 20%. Realize one more thing I wanted to show, and then I can deal with questions. Of course, this is 74711. Building form must be considered in relation to the neighborhood. This is the proposed building on 23rd Street. This is the toy building here at 175 feet. The proposed building at 278, and the Masonic Temple is at 279. So that's what the building would look like in context on 23rd Street, the north side. The south side of 23rd Street is what this would look like. Buildings that you might know, Stern Brothers building here at 200 feet, and the Flatiron at 307. And then on 24th Street, this would be the building at 130 feet, toy building here, 175 feet, Masonic Temple at 279, and this would be the north side of 24th Street, where the building would actually be relatively, well, maybe about average, I suppose. It would fit into the, you would see how it would look into the context. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Questions? Ms. Delvis? Oh, Mr. Knuckles goes first.
Well, no, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to hear from you, given your prelude to the presentation. I guess I wanted more insight into what troubles you.
I actually wanted to hear from all of you. Let me start with aspects of this that I find troubling, especially looking back on the Commission's report from 2006, which approves a special permit for 23rd Street, and Dominic referred to the 24th Street one-unit building as a tower. I'm not sure I would categorize it as a tower, but the Commission was very clear at that point that it found the 23rd Street development in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, but noted that 24th Street was still quite industrial and I think was willing, as I at least read the report, some of you may have been there at the time, to have one unit on 24th Street, but was highly sensitive to the character of 24th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue, which really, as I understand it, has not changed very much since, if at all, since 2006. Now a building is proposed on the 24th Street side, which is quite questionable in terms of the character of 24th Street. But beyond that, I note that the 2006 special permit for 90,000 square feet projected 63 units, and the current proposal is 40 units for 120,000 square feet and 50 accessory parking spaces for 40 units. So in its entirety, this is, I would say, a confusing and somewhat almost contradictory application, but those are at least my concerns. But I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that or whatever.
I was just taken that the landmarks preservation vote just happened recently with the new proposal. Is that,
Oh, yes, yes.
well, it was in April, well, in the last year. Yeah.
Ms. Efron, and then
I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Levin.
No,
Sorry.
please go ahead, Anna.
Well, just as a follow-up comment is that LPC found that the proposed design restores the continuity of the street walls, strengthens the streetscapes around the site, and relates well to the character of the respective block fronts, and is appropriate to the Ladies Mile Historic District. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah, maybe on 23rd Street.
Not even. I mean,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cantor.
What kind of combination of circumstances could occur with these odd marriages after the building is built in terms of a possible conversion?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean. There,
No. Hearing you explain it makes me wonder why as well. And when I wonder why, I try to figure out what the opportunities are that are not being expressed, which may occur after we approve it and after they may choose to build it. And I'm wondering whether anyone in the department has tried to analyze various permutations that might not be as obvious as this is.
I don't know. I've, other than what's in the application, I have no idea what the applicant has in mind. I do, as I understand it, Dominic, these are two separate buildings with a courtyard, basically, and a connecting passageway in between 23rd and 24th.
There is a connecting building on the first floor. There is a part of the first floor is an open area, but there is a residential entrance on 24th Street that you can access 23rd Street from, and vice versa. In the middle of the two buildings, there's a connector where, say, I think the mailboxes are supposed to be. So, it does constitute one building.
Ms. Efron.
Just want to say for the record, I am concerned about the 24th Street side and the manufacturing use that's there, and it does concern me, too.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Certified.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dominic. Let's now move to item number 5, page 345, proposed zoning map amendment from an R6 C22 district to an R6 and C43 district in Flushing, Queens. Facilitate the Hugh Hotel and Residences, and our presenter is Hae Kyung. This is item number 5, page 345.
Strange enough.
Candy corn mixed up.
Good afternoon. CG and J Realty LLC is seeking a zoning change from R6 C2-2 to C4-3 zoning district. The proposed zoning map amendment would facilitate construction of a new mixed-use 11-story building in the Flushing neighborhood in Queens Community District 7. Shown on this map, the project site is located on the northern edge of Flushing's expanding central business district area. Currently, the CBD is generally bound by Union Street, Roosevelt Avenue, Main Street, and Northern Boulevard. Shown in circle. The project area is surrounded by a mix of land uses, including commercial retail, medical offices, hotel, and light manufacturing. Ground floor commercial retail is concentrated along the wider street, such as 35th Avenue, Northern Boulevard, and Prince Street. Medical and hotel spaces are scattered throughout the surrounding area within the mixed-use buildings ranging from 5 to 11 stories. Light manufacturing, transportation, and utility uses are concentrated north of 35th Avenue and west of Linden Street, with close proximity to the Whitestone Expressway and College Point Boulevard. There are also several institutional uses within the surrounding area. Adjacent to the site is the LPC designated and historic landmark Flushing Town Hall. The Town Hall today is home to Flushing Council on Cultural and the Arts and is used as an art space and community facility. Flushing High School and the Friends Meeting House, both LPC designated and National Registered Landmark buildings, are also located east and south within close proximity to the project site. So on this map, this is the site, this is the Town Hall. Flushing High School is here, and the Friends Meeting House is Northern Boulevard. The project area is well served by both roads and mass transit. It is located along Northern Boulevard, a major east and west thoroughfare extending from Long Island City to Long Island. Approximately half a mile west to the site, Northern Boulevard intersects with the Van Wyck Expressway, providing access to the Whitestone Bridge to the north and Kennedy JFK Airport to the south. 3 blocks south of the project site is the 7 train. The project site is also well serviced by New York City Transit bus service, with numerous bus lines that serves as an intermodal hub to the 7 train terminal station and the LIRR. The proposed action would facilitate development of a new mixed-use building that would include residential, retail, hotel, and community facility use. The proposed building would include 7 stories with a basement, ground floor, and a cellar, and rise to a maximum height of 123 feet for a total of about 150,000 square feet, or 4.8 FAR. The proposed project would contain approximately 10,000 square feet of commercial retail, approximately 97,000 square feet of hotel space, approximately 7,000 square feet of community facility, and about 37,000 square feet of residential space. This would entail 191 hotel rooms and 43 residential dwelling units. The 2nd through 8th floor of the building would contain the hotel. The 9th through 11th floors would contain the building's residential apartments. The ground floor of their building would include retail space, the lobby and drop-off area of the hotel, along with its restaurant and meeting rooms. The residential lobby and loading berth would front on Levitt Street. The building would also include 155 accessory parking spaces in the cellar and first floor, accessed via a ramp from Levitt Street. This below-grade parking would be accessible by 2 vehicular elevators from the first floor. The plan also includes 33 bicycle parking spaces within the cellar. In order to facilitate the project, the applicant requests a zoning map amendment that would change the current zoning from an R6 C2-2 zoning district to a C4-3. The new C4-3 district would essentially extend from the existing C4-3 district located on the south, which is and extend it As the applicant has analyzed, the proposed rezoning to C4-3 is intended not only to facilitate the proposed development, but also more accurately reflect the existing character of the area, which contains pre-existing C4 districts to the south with mixed-use developments. Within the last decade, the Flushing Central Business District has experienced a number of new mixed-use developments. Since 2002, 3 rezoning actions were sought near the project area, changing from manufacturing district to residential districts, with commercial overlays in order to facilitate the new mixed-use residential and commercial development. Those developments are highlighted in the orange. This is the Flushing Commons project. This is the rezoning, the Carrington Street and 35th Avenue, and the Sullivan Center. The existing R6 district permits residential use to an FAR of 2.43, or a 3.0 under the Quality Housing Program, with a community facility use to an FAR of 4.8. C2-2 commercial overlays allow up to 2.0 FAR of commercial use. Generally, the C2 overlays are mapped to encourage a wide variety of local retail uses along the major thoroughfare in areas of moderate density. The proposed extension of the C4-3 on a wide street such as Northern Boulevard would help create a block front that is more pedestrian-friendly. Zoning analysis shows that bulk is appropriate for a wide street in a defined business district. The C4-3 district permits a mixed-use building of 4.8 FAR with a wide range of commercial uses appropriate for mixed use in a CBD. Residential FAR in the C4-3 is equivalent to the existing R6. The allowance for more commercial use and lower parking requirements serves to reflect not only the dense mixed-use character of the Flushing CBD, but also an area more dependent on public transportation. Questions?
Questions for Hay County?
It's just bothering.
Mr. Cantor?
I noticed both on this application and in the prior one, there were no references to affordable housing.
Yes.
There are no requirements.
The applicant has not proposed any affordable housing.
The applicant has not proposed any affordable
Nope.
housing on either this one or the prior.
No.
Has that been discussed with the applicant?
I believe it's been discussed in the former application with the, on the former, last application. I don't, Hay County, I don't know about this one. Mr. Young?
Oh, thanks, John.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This project has been a long-standing project to get to this point to be certified. And as Hay Kyung's pointed out, there is no increase in residential. The primary purpose of the rezoning here is to facilitate a mixed-use project. Both the retail and the commercial are extensively expanding in the downtown Flushing area, and that has really been the focus. So there's a small number of units provided here, roughly 40 units, and that is certainly good because we think having a 24/7 character is important to this part of Northern Boulevard, but there have been no discussions about making any of those other than market rate units.
Mr. Knuckles?
Making the market rate or affordable?
Having them as market rate units, that's the developer's intent, and that's all that we've been discussing
Oh, okay.
around this
I thought you
proposal.
said there had been no discussion about market rate.
Yeah, no discussion.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Sort of
Cantor.
go contrary to the mayor's mandate?
Well,
We're asking for something, and what are we getting back?
I think the two situations between the last application and this one are quite different. On the last one, that certainly has been in request, although there seems to be no interest in providing affordable housing. On this one, I think as John says, and Hay Kyung indicates, the major thrust of this is a hotel, so, but you might want to add to that, either one of you?
Major thrust is hotel, and there's no density increase here at all. The current maximum in the R6 is 4.8 with community facility, and the current maximum with the C4-3 is 4.8 with community facility. The major change is that there is an increase in commercial floor area. So that's really the impetus for extending the C43 district northward across Northern Boulevard.
Ms. Levin, then Ms. Ortiz.
So then following up on that, I have to say, just looking up and down, it's been a long time since I've been out there, so of course I turned to Street View. Best way to check out these neighborhoods without leaving your own home. And notwithstanding the fact that it's a C43 to the south as you get closer to the sort of center part of Flushing, this stretch of Northern Boulevard really isn't nearly of this scale. And I think the rendering on the bottom left here on the floor really sort of highlights my puzzlement about this stretch and makes me wonder whether you've looked at this, whether the Queen's office has looked at this comprehensively for an overall change. I know notice there's a hotel of about 8 stories, that's 2 blocks or a block and a half to the west. And whether something more comprehensive for that stretch would make sense, because this scale doesn't make sense given what's there now.
I'll answer that in 2 ways. One, first of all, there is a hotel just on the next block over, not even, in the middle of the block there, which is developed under the current commercial overlay in R6. And this...
So the overlay was sufficient to allow that much?
Because there's also an ability, depending on how long you rent out the rooms, to use some of the rooms as a residential floor area, but still overall the project's a hotel. This scale of development is allowed under the current zoning. As I've said, the current zoning here is R6 with a C2 overlay. Typically, R6 zones produce anywhere from 11 to 14-story buildings, depending on the size of the lot. Northern Boulevard is a wide street, therefore it has a fairly steep sky exposure plane. So it's just been a matter of time before something of this scale could have been developed on this taxpayer site all along. But we agree that there's an opportunity probably to think about, guiding development more comprehensively on the boulevard. But again, the scale here is consistent with what could happen today.
Yeah, I guess it's just since it's across the street from the Quaker Meeting House. It's a really kind of sensitive, but on the other hand, the Quaker Meeting House, which was built in 16, it's like the oldest house of worship in New York City. It's really quite an
In
astonishing
the
thing.
17th century, yeah. We've got 2 17th century buildings.
And but it's in a C43, so what can you do?
Oh, with the turret on it, yeah.
Ms. Ortiz, and then Ms. Efron.
Hi, how are you? I'm a Queens resident, so I'm very familiar with the site. And, I note that Northern Boulevard, the crossings there, there's a lot of activity, and presumably you'll be creating a destination because you're increasing the commercial offerings there, so you're going to have people crossing Northern. Where they're crossing is at Union Street for the most part, which is a micro market in its own right, and Main, and this is between those. I'm wondering if there's any consideration given to the crossings along Northern, because people do crazy things when there's a mid-block destination. They will try to cross mid-block, which creates an unsafe condition. And has there been any consideration given to how pedestrians will get across, because we're presumably creating more pedestrian traffic across a very busy street that's already somewhat difficult to cross because I've tried myself.
I think the crossing in front of Town Hall is maintained quite well, which is right next to the site. But
Are there, that crossing there, is that a pedestrian, is that striped?
It's striped, and the open space serves, it's actually on the lower one, if you just want to point down, you can see the stripe. I'll hold that up. And so the traffic, there's actually sort of that pedestrian island created in the middle of the boulevard.
But you still have to walk down
You'd have to walk down.
in either direction. Okay.
But it's an excellent point, and we, I think, understand, but we can follow up with our colleagues at Queens DOT about how Northern Boulevard is being examined for Vision Zero improvements along it. We'll sort of point to that.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Efron.
I know that the grocery store doesn't have to remain a grocery store, but it does beg the question of whether there's still pedestrian access to a grocery store within the immediately adjacent residential neighborhood.
Yes, there's several actually
Right.
supermarkets in the area.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this? Okay, certified. Lots of questions on the way back, I'm sure.
Thanks, Hae-Kyung. Hae-Kyung also has the next item, item number 6, page 373, proposed zoning map amendment, UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property to facilitate senior housing and community facility space along 101st Street in Corona, Queens. This is item number 6, page 373.
Mr. Chairman, oh, sorry. I need to recuse.
Ms. Young is recused on this.
Record will reflect.
Okay, going across. Going across the park, we're now going to be looking at Community District 4 in Queens. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development is seeking an approval of a zoning map amendment and of a UDAP designation, project approval, and designation of city-owned property to facilitate the development of a mixed-use, affordable senior housing project in the Corona neighborhood of Community District 4 in Queens. The neighborhood primarily consists of residential use, parkland, local retail use, community facilities, and utility services. The project area surroundings consist of medium-density residential buildings ranging from 5 to 8 stories, set back from the street line and surrounded by open space and parking lots. There are local retail spaces along 99th Street and Corona Avenue corridors. Various institutional uses include several houses of worship, IS 61, and the Con Ed Transformer Station. To the north and adjacent to the site are Simone Park and Corona Mac Park, located on Lewis Avenue. So I'm just gonna. This is the site. Lewis Simone Park is there, and Corona Mac Park is within the rezoning area. The project area is well serviced by public transportation, including multiple New York City bus lines and the 7th subway line. The predominant zoning districts surrounding the project area are medium-density residential districts, including R5, R6, R6B, and R7B. The R6 zoning district allows for medium-density residential development. The FAR ranges from 0.78 to 2.43 for residential uses and 4.8 for community facilities, based on either a height factor or quality housing regulations, as you know. Buildings developed using the height factors are often tall buildings set back from the street and surrounded by open space and on-site parking. The optional quality housing regulations have high lot coverages set at or near the street line. The building directly to the west of the site is an R6 zoning district. Is in an R6 zoning district and is built under the height factor and is 8 stories high, surrounded by on-site parking, and that's this site here. R6B strives to preserve the scale of the streetscape of the neighborhood of 4-story attached buildings. The residential and community facility uses, FAR is 2.0 and has a mandatory quality housing bulk regulations. The base height of new buildings before setback must be between 30 to 40 feet, with a maximum height of 50 feet. C1 and C2 commercial overlays in R6B districts allow for an FAR of 2.0 and are subject to commercial bulk regulations. The rezoning area is located on the east side of 101st Street between Lewis Avenue and Martens Avenue. Development site is owned by the city and is currently an interim community garden. With coordination between parks, the Green Thumb Gardeners have been offered to relocate next door to Corona Mac Park, and the offer was accepted. The development would consist of an 8-story mixed-use affordable senior housing containing approximately 67 affordable dwelling units for elderly residents. The units will be located on floors 2 through 8. The building would include a 960 square feet indoor community room for residents and approximately 6,000 square feet 2 outdoor spaces on the ground and accessible roof terrace on the 5th floor. The open space on the ground floor would include seating and tables for residents and planting garden. The open space on the 5th floor would include an outdoor benches and planters. In order to facilitate the proposal, HPD is requesting a zoning amendment and a UDAP designation. The rezoning would be an extension of the neighboring R6 zoning to the north and to the west of the project area. The project area is currently zoned for R6B. The proposed R6 district from R6B would allow for an increase in residential FAR from a 2.0 to 3.9 for a non-profit residential for the elderly. Additionally, the applicant requests UDAP designation for the development site. The site is proposed for disposition to a developer selected by HPD. And lastly, separate from this application, HPD is seeking mayoral zoning overrides, which eliminates elimination of required parking spaces, a slight reduction in the dwelling unit factor, and reducing open space ratio to increase the lot coverage. So that's it.
Thank you, Hei Kyung. Let me just say that, as I think you all know, at least in 2 of the areas where HPD is seeking a mayoral override, one for parking and the other for unit size. The department is currently looking at both of those areas with respect to seniors with a view toward reducing, at least in high-density transit areas, and particularly for seniors, parking requirements and unit size. So hopefully if we can get you all to embrace that idea, and the city council as well, we should see fewer of these zoning overrides in the future, but it's an indication of how impractical some of our current requirements are with respect to these areas. So with that overly lengthy introduction, Rayanne.
Thank
Ms.
you,
Bassett.
Chair. Thank you, Chair. Would you know if that would have any effect on their privacy for a bathroom in each unit?
Oh, no.
I don't believe so, no.
As far as shared bathroom?
Hei Kyung, would you?
The way that the plans have been presented, each of the units would have their own private bathrooms. So it would really be an apartment built for a person.
How many studio apartments and how many one-bedrooms? And also, what are the size of the units?
So this is subject to change since the layout and the finances are not finalized. The floor plate, however, I've been told, is not going to change. And it might change based on, the unit configurations might change based on the HPD design guidelines and accessibility. But of the units, about 90% of the dwelling units are proposed to be 1 bedroom. So let's see if you do the math, it's about 61 bedrooms and then 7 studios, and the supers units. And each of the plates would be, each of the rooms would be maybe a little less than 700 square feet. Am I correct?
I think you have it on here, it's just that it's
Oh.
too small for me to
747.
read.
It varies.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Delauze?
I am not aware of the on-site services, however, by, no office space, but. Ah, okay. Yes, that has not been finalized, but maybe by pre-hearing, they'll have more concrete answers.
HPD is in the audience.
Yes.
Ms. Levin?
I have, I guess, two land use type questions. One is, why is Lot 10, which is the little building, I guess, to the south, included in the rezoning area?
There is a sliver that has, according to zoning, to make this an equal 270 number. It is part of that, but it's a sliver, and I think it's less than 25 feet, and therefore it won't be affected by the rezoning.
Ah, okay.
It's like a
Supposed to
mapping amendment.
rationalize.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, good. And secondly, just for clarification, the briefing package says, in one place, it says that the FAR in the R6 is, for community facilities, is 4.8. And then on the next page, it says it's 3.9.
Okay, so the 4.8 is with that's allowed with community facility in an R6 district.
Yeah?
The 3.9 is a residential FAR, which is allowed. So if they just,
For the use. So you can get up to 3.9 for this particular.
just for the
Use.
residential
So this is not a
use.
community facility use, this is residential use.
It's community facility use, but it's governed by the residential.
Governed by the residential rules.
Exactly. It's governed by residential envelope, which is why some of these waivers were needed, and ultimately, the type of use here is within overall the community facility FAO.
Okay.
Any other questions for Hay County? Okay. Certified.
Thanks, Hakeem. Let's now move to item number 7, a proposed zoning map amendment from R5 and R5C13 districts to R6 and R6C13 districts to facilitate a new community facility building at 5402 Fort Hamilton Parkway. Now, presenter is Richard. This is item number 7, page 391.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weisbrod, Commissioners. This is an application for certification. The applicant, Fort Hamilton LLC, is proposing a zoning map amendment from an R5 district to an R6 district. An existing C13 overlay currently mapped over a portion of the rezoning area would remain unchanged. Proposed rezoning would facilitate the development of a new 6-story community facility building containing ambulatory diagnostic and treatment facilities, or what's more commonly known as medical offices, the ground floor partially used for retail use. Proposed new building will have just over 50,000 square feet of floor area. It's located at 5402 Fort Hamilton Parkway, Block 5673, lots 42 and 50 in the Borough Park section of Brooklyn Community District 12. Proposed project was initiated by a group of physicians affiliated with the Maimonides Medical Center. It would facilitate the consolidation of women's health services into a single modern state-of-the-art facility serving the needs of the Borough Park community. The facility will provide a broad range of women's health services, including a birthing center for midwife care and delivery. Cases unable to be handled on an outpatient basis be referred to the Maimonides Medical Center. The project area or rezoning area is generally bounded by 53rd Street on the north, Fort Hamilton Parkway to the east, a line 120 feet south of 54th Street to the south, and a line 100 feet west of Fort Hamilton Parkway to the west. The area is predominantly residential with in an R6 and R5 district with predominantly 2 to 3 story semi-detached buildings and row houses on the mid-blocks and 4-story buildings on the avenue. The avenue itself, Fort Hamilton Parkway, is a wide street with traffic in both directions. With the exception of a portion of the rezoning area of bulk of Fort Allen Parkway has a C13 overlay, which permits local retail uses that service the underlying district. There are several community facilities in close proximity to the development site. Within the proposed zoning area is the Monastery of the Precious Blood, a monastery that's been there since the turn of the century. You look, 3/4 of the monastery is already in the R6. By extending the R6 district over the monastery, the entire monastery would then be within the R6 and would be in better compliance with existing height and setback regulations in that district. Right opposite the development site is also the United Talmudic Academy, a 4-story building, and Maimonides Medical Center is some 5 blocks north of the development site. There's the nearest train station is on Utrecht Avenue, some 3 blocks to the east. The D train at 50th and 50th Street, and also there's an N train at 62nd and Fort Allen Parkway. There are several bus routes in the area, namely the B16 along Fort Allen Parkway, the B70 along 9th Avenue, and other routes that crisscross the area. The project site, the project area, again includes 2 lots on 5673, the development site, lots 42 and 50. 42 currently has a vacant gas station with a vacant 1-story building. It also has a vacant 3-story building. Both buildings would be demolished for the development. Again, across the street is the monastery. And there's a small portion of blocks that's, because of the way the lines are drawn, not part of the development site, a 3-story existing building, which is in also the rezoning area. The development site itself is just over 11,000 square feet. It has 122 feet of frontage along Fort Allen Parkway, 100 feet of frontage on 54th Street. The rezoning would facilitate, again, the development of a 6-story community facility building or medical offices with a portion of the ground floor devoted to retail use, possibly a pharmacy. The building would be built at 4.54 FAR, again, just over 50,000 square feet, 45,000 for community facility, and some 5,600 for ground floor commercial. Proposed building also includes a cellar space for medical office functions, some 9,900 gross square feet, and 3 sub-cellar levels for parking, a total of 150 required accessory parking spaces, to be provided in an automated parking garage with an elevator and an attendant. There'll be a 17.5-foot curb cut on 54th Street, approximately 64 feet from Fort Hampton Parkway. The proposed building will rise to a height of 6 stories, some 66 feet without bulkhead. Street wall will be 4 stories, 44 feet. These 2 brick buildings you see as part of the development, 33 feet in height, to provide a better transition to the adjacent row houses. In the current R5C13 district, the maximum FAR for community facility is 2.0 and 1.0 for commercial. In the proposed R6, permitted maximum would be 4.8. Even though this development is 4.54. So just to summarize, the applicant is seeking a zoning map amendment to rezone portions of 2 blocks from the existing R5 C13 and R5 zoning district to the proposed R6 C13 and R6 zoning district. Development site consists of 2 lots currently in the R5 and C13. Proposed rezoning would allow a higher community facility FAR to facilitate the development of a new state-of-the-art women's health care facility with ground floor retail use. And overall, the rezoning would extend the character of the R6, which is directly adjacent to the north and west, and bring existing development, namely the monastery, into greater compliance. Happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Knuckles.
Richard, I'm just curious, the building in the rendering to the left of the proposed building, yeah, just point. Yeah, what's that height?
That is a 4-story building. It's across the street. That's
Right.
the Talmudic Academy. I'd have to look exactly, but it's something in the neighborhood of 50 feet tall.
Okay.
Matter of fact, here on actually, this is sort of a streetscape. It shows the 54th Street side. Yes, it's 51 feet to the roof level. And similarly, across the street, this is the monastery on the Parkway side. The monastery rises to 79 feet, as opposed to the 66-foot plus another 10 feet for bulkhead. So it's similar height and bulk, monastery and the proposed facility. And similarly, on this side, while not as tall, there is substantial height across the street.
The street wall seems to, at least the before the setback on the proposed, looks like they're more aligned, yeah. Okay.
Ms. Delausse?
Just wondering if you happen to know whether or not the team of the developers, who seem to be a group of doctors, whether or not they've engaged with the local residents as part of this plan? That's one question. And then the other is, I believe more babies are born at Maimonides than any other place in New York State. So I think this place would probably be full right away.
I'd have to really let the applicant speak to their outreach. But I know, as you said, Maimonides is a very busy hospital. It's very well received in the community.
Yeah.
And these physicians are affiliated with Maimonides, have privileges there. So likely the community is aware of it.
Hopefully.
Ms. Levin?
I guess it's my day for parking. I note there are 150 accessory parking spaces and intended to be put on 3 subcellar levels, cellar and subcellar levels. That's pretty, and in an automated facility. That's pretty expensive parking at this location, expensive to construct.
Right.
And is it automated in the sense that the 23rd Street thing 24th Street thing?
Something similar to that. 150 spaces is the requirement.
Right.
It's 1 space for every 400 square feet of floor area. The only thing I can add is that during the environmental review process, the Department of Transportation fully vetted this project, and they did attach some conditions to signal timing changes in on-street parking, so they've looked at it, and it's passed their muster.
Wow, big undertaking for those doctors.
With all these babies, I guess they can afford to
I guess so.
do that.
Come in a car.
Any other questions about Grand Street? This will be on for public,
Fort Hamilton Parkway.
oh, Fort Hamilton Parkway, I'm sorry, this will,
This is for certification.
for certification.
Now Grand Street.
Now Grand Street, okay, pardon me, thank you, Richard.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's certified,
Yes.
Certified,
right?
yeah.
And now,
He did say that.
You want the,
I'm,
we're
apologize.
moving.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
now
so
Grand Street, okay.
Grand Street is next. It's a Brooklyn pre-hearing application involving the proposed Urban Development Action Area Project designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property, facilitate a predominantly affordable residential. The building is predominantly affordable, but it also has commercial space, and this is on for pre-hearing on Wednesday. So this is item number 8, page 403.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an HPD application requesting the approval of a UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of a city-owned property. The approval of the application would facilitate the development of an 8-story mixed-use building with 51 rental units and ground floor commercial space. The project site is located at 695 Grand Street between Manhattan and Graham Avenues. It is in Community District 1, Brooklyn. The site is approximately 13,800 square feet in area and is occupied by a 1-story commercial building that contains 2 retail stores. The existing commercial building would be demolished to allow the construction of the new mixed-use building on that site. The site is primarily located in a C4A zoning district, which is mapped along Grand Street. Just a small portion of the site in the rear is in an R6B district. The C4A district is an R7A equivalent with a maximum floor area ratio of 4. In inclusionary housing, under inclusionary housing program, R7A district has a base FAR of 3.45 and the bonus FAR of 4.6, and this building will have an overall FAR of 4.43. The sponsor of the development is St. Nick's Alliance, a housing advocacy group working in North Brooklyn since 1975. The proposed 8-story building would have 51 rental units, 12,994 square feet of ground floor commercial space. 41 dwelling units out of 51 would be affordable, 9 would be market rate, and 1 would be reserved for the building superintendent. There would be 9 studios, 15 one-bedroom, 19 two-bedroom, and 8 three-bedroom apartments. Additionally, 8 of the 41 affordable units would be reserved for supportive housing for formerly homeless single adults and families with HIV/AIDS. Of the 41 affordable units, 8 would be reserved for the households earning less than 30% of the AMI, while the rest would be for households earning up to 60% of the AMI. Financing of the proposed development would be provided through HPD's new construction program and HCR's low-income tax credit program. Community Board 1 held a public hearing on this application on August 12 and approved the application unanimously by a vote of 36 in favor, none opposed, and no abstentions. The Borough President's Office also approved the application with several conditions, and the conditions are that all of the supportive and non-supportive housing be permanently affordable. According to HPD, out of 41 affordable units, 10 units would be provided under the inclusionary housing program and would be affordable permanently. The remaining 31 units will be affordable for 50 years. These units are funded through HCR's low-income tax credit program, and the program requirements dictates the 50-year affordability span. Borough President's Office also recommended that the project sponsor hire Brooklyn-based contractors and subcontractors for this project. HPD has no such requirement. Borough President's Office requested that HPD extends the Community Board 1 preference to the former residents of the Community Board 1 who were displaced since the 2005 Greenpoint Williamsburg rezoning. HPD has informed us that they will be here on Tuesday at the public hearing and would respond to this question, themselves. Finally, Borough President's Office also made 3 other recommendations which are outside the scope of this application. And those recommendations are that city allocates funds for affordable housing for the former Greenpoint Hospital site. HPD also proceed with urban renewal site assemblages and site dispositions for affordable housing in the Broadway Triangle area, which is south of the Community Board 1. And HPD also requested that we modify the inclusionary housing program. All these 3 recommendations are outside of the purview of this application.
Thank you, Syed. Questions about this? Okay, public hearing
Thank you.
Wednesday.
Thanks, Syed. Let's now move to item number 9, our second pre-hearing project. It's located in Staten Island. It's proposed zoning map amendment to establish a C12 commercial overlay to facilitate a commercial building. Now, presenter is Roselle. This is item number 9, page 430, Staten Island pre-hearing application.
Good afternoon. This project is back from Community Board and Borough President review. It is a private application to establish a C12 overlay district on an interior lot with 130 feet of frontage on Forest Avenue. The Community Board recommended approval with a vote of 27 in favor, none against, and 1 abstention, and that was Community Board 1. And the Borough President sent an approval with no conditions. If the project is, if the zoning map amendment is approved, it would facilitate the development of a 1-story commercial building, which I can just show you and let you know if you have any questions. 1-story commercial building, 23 feet in height. There would be mandatory landscaping between this site and the existing residential development, and also at the street line.
Questions for Roselle? Public hearing on Wednesday.
I'm sorry, public hearing is on for public hearing on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Roselle. Let's now move to item number 10, page 441, proposed authorization in the Special Natural Area District to facilitate 3 new single-family homes on a zoning lot located on Philston Avenue in the Bronx. This is the Bloomfield Development Proposal, page 441, item number 10, and our presenter is Jutan.
And let me just say, before this, that I want to acknowledge Ryan Singer, our Bronx Office Deputy Director, who sadly is going to be leaving city planning next week to become the Executive Director of the Board of Standards and Appeals. We are
Make good decisions.
a recruiting grounds for everybody. Ryan has been an invaluable member, really, of our Bronx office since 2002, and he's been deputy director now for more than 7 years. And Ryan, where are you, Ryan? There you are. On behalf of the department and the commission, I thank you for your service. The entire department, especially Carol, is grateful for your professionalism, your common sense, your good humor. We'll all miss you, and we will now be watching Carol's productivity much more closely. Ryan has made his mark on the Bronx by shaping the Hub, Yankee Stadium, Bronx Terminal Market, Throgs Neck, and major corridors across the borough, including 161st Street, East Fordham Road, 3rd Avenue, Tremont Avenue, Webster Avenue. In addition, the Kingsbridge National Ice Center Plaza, Roberto Clemente Plaza, the Sheridan Expressway, and Metro North Study, and many other projects throughout his distinguished career here.
You're hired.
We are proud of you, and we are grateful that the department will have such a competent, knowledgeable partner at the Board of Standards. And I know that the entire commission joins in wishing you the best. Watch out for us over there. You know, there once was a time when the City Planning Commission brought a lawsuit against the Board of Standards and Appeals, and none of us want to see that happen again, especially the Board of Standards and Appeals. But Ryan, we wish you very, very well, and thank you for your service. On behalf of all.
Good afternoon. So we normally don't show you natural area applications, but we're showing you Bloomfield today because of the complexity of 3 new homes being built in the Fieldston Historic District. The applicant is requesting commission authorizations to permit the construction of 3 single-family dwellings on the project site located at 4680 Fieldston Road. The property is located in the Fieldston Historic District, a historic district established in 2006 within Community District 8 of the Bronx. The project site is bounded by Fieldston Road to the west, Indian Road to the north, Delafield Park, and Livingston Avenue to the east. The surrounding area is made up predominantly of single-family homes in Delafield Park, which is a private park immediately to the east side of the lot here. Operated by the Fieldston Property Owners Association, and includes a man-made pond. The project site is composed of 4 tax lots on a single zoning lot. The total lot area is 55,781 square feet. The site is improved with a 2.5-story single-family dwelling, which is about 7,800 square feet. The applicant will retain ownership of the existing dwelling. The site has an average percent slope of 10.97%, making it a Tier 2 site. The average percent slope is a calculation we use to determine how much grade change the lot has, with 10% being the cutoff between Tier 1 and Tier 2 sites, Tier 2. There are 5 steep slope areas on the site. A steep slope has an area of greater than 25%. In total, approximately 7,060 square feet, or 10.6% of the total lot area is steep slope. The proposed development will add 3 single-family homes to the zoning lot. Home 1 here will be 4,458 square foot, 3-story home. House 2 will be a 4,970 square foot, 2-story home. And house 3 to the north will be a 3,683 square foot home. All 3 homes will include a 2-car garage at the cellar level. 3 proposed buildings will increase the total square footage on the lot to 20,233 square feet, which increases the FAR from 0.14 to 0.37 on the zoning lot. The proposed 3 one-family dwellings will increase the overall lot coverage on the site from 9,000 to 9,264 square feet, increasing it from 6.9% to 16.6% of the site. The project site presently has 81 trees, which translates to 292 existing tree credits. The proposed development requires 149 tree credits on the site. Of those existing trees, 42 will remain for a total of 140 tree credits. 39 trees will be removed or not counted for tree credit due to their critical roots being impacted. Of those 39 trees, 11 trees cannot be counted for credit but are intended to be preserved. Precautions will be taken to try to ensure that these trees survive. 14 new trees will also be planted on the site to increase the total number of tree credits to 154 in order to meet the tree requirements. An existing driveway was located here. The existing driveway was located here to the existing one-family dwelling and will be relocated approximately 25 feet to the north. The movement of the driveway will also widen the driveway to a standardized width of 18 feet 8 inches for fire department access. A new driveway will need to be built to access the home to the north along Indian Road. In addition to the city planning authorizations, LPC approval is required for building within the Fieldstone Historic District. So there are 6 actions required for this project. First is an authorization of a Tier 2 site impacting a steep slope or steep slope buffer area. All 3 proposed homes trigger this authorization as they all impact an area of the steep slope or steep slope buffer. Authorization to alter rock outcrops. House number 1 and house number 3 both impact various amounts of rock outcrop on the site. An authorization to modify the tree preservation and planting provisions. All 3 proposed houses and their construction zones will affect some existing trees. An authorization to modify the lot coverage controls. The residential lot coverage for Tier 2 sites, which also seeks an authorization for the steep slope, limits the maximum percentage of lot coverage to 12.5%. The proposed lot coverage will be 16.6%. An authorization to modify the required space between buildings on the zoning lot. It's required that they be 35 feet apart. These 2 homes will be 27 feet apart. An authorization to modify the driveway requirements. The requirements for driveway and private roads on Tier 2 zoning limits the maximum grade to 10% slope and a maximum driveway width of 18 feet. As I said before, it will be 18 feet 8 inches, and all 3 of these mini driveways will range between 21 and 23 feet. House number 2 here will also have a slope of 10.8%, triggering that authorization.
Thank you. Any questions about this?
Nice size house.
Ms. Levin?
Jitan, I guess I have 3 short questions. Where is LPC in its review process of this?
Yeah, so for the referral period, LPC and city planning both refer out to the community board at the same time. So, but when we vote, the city planning commission votes first, and then LPC votes second, as it's more based on the design for LPC, and so we need city planning in order to get those authorizations to even build the buildings before they worry about the design of the buildings. But we move together through the process.
Okay. Second question is, how far is House 1 from the embassy to the south? That looks like a pretty close distance, and does it comply with zoning?
It is, I have that number, it's 20, it's like 26, 28 feet, something like that. I have to look, but I know it's in the findings.
Well, the number itself isn't so important, but it's okay? It complies with zoning?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, I note that the original application was filed April 28th, 2010, which is more than 4 years ago. Why the delay?
It's a very complicated project. Yeah, I mean, we do, we look at these very closely. The applicant has made some changes to the project over time. One of the big ones is they had a driveway connecting to this home, but now they made it so that all three are accessible here in order to minimize intrusion on the natural features, the slopes, be away from the pond. So there were some of those changes that were made over time that just caused this project to take longer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this? Mr. Knuckles?
The referral, Duton, that includes community board?
Yeah, so that's the Community Board 8 referral that, yeah.
Okay, so this is referred out to the community board for 60 days.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yutan. Let's now move to item number 11, page 490, proposed renewals of previously approved special permits and an authorization to facilitate film and television production studios, housing, open space, retail, and community facility uses. This is item number 11, page 490, and our presenter is Penny.
Yeah, still, this one is,
Just getting bored. She's getting the boards.
I'm here.
Okay.
You're sorry. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Silver Cup West, Silver Cup Terracotta LLC filed their second and final application for special permit and authorization renewals. The Silver Cup West project was originally approved it was approved by the commission in July of 2006 and by the city council in August of 2006. The project would include 1,000 apartments, 655,000 square feet of office space, 8 television and motion picture production studios, retail space, public waterfront access, 140,000 square feet of institutional space. And it all required a number of actions to accomplish this, including zoning changes, zoning text amendments, and then 3 special permits and 1 zoning authorization. And unlike the zoning map amendments and the zoning text amendments, which are permanent, the special permits and the authorization have a 10-year lifespan. So the clock starts when the project is approved, then the applicant has 4 years to develop the project, invest the project. If it is not vested within that initial 4-year period, then the applicant has 2 additional 3-year renewal periods. And the 2 3-year renewals require the applicant to file an application to to assert that the findings around which the original special permits and authorization were made haven't changed. So the site today is much the same as it was in 2006. I took these yesterday morning when it was not particularly cheery out, so I apologize for the rather bleak appearance. But this just gives you a sense of the scale and the magnitude of the site. There's a NIPA power plant that occupies the southern half of the site. And then the northern half of the site is owned by Silver Cup. It's owned by the applicant. And with the exception of a very small, about 3,000 square foot landmark structure on the Bruno Boulevard frontage of the site, it's vacant. I mean, what behind here is just a lot of weeds. And I've been talking about this site and saying, half of it is a power plant, half of it is owned by Silver Cup, and no one's really been able to see what I've meant, so I thought it would be helpful to grab some pictures. So this is the approved site plan. The 2 apartment towers would be in the southern end of the site, occupied by the NIPA facility. Roughly, the dividing line is right down the center of the site, apartment buildings would be here, the television and motion picture production studios would be here, the office building here, the smaller institutional building here, then there would be retail along the waterfront, and then all of the public open space that you see surrounding the site. 43rd Avenue, which is the southern boundary, one of the actions also was to change the city map for 43rd Avenue to bring the map grade out of the floodplain. And Silver Cup would be required to build 43rd Avenue. It's currently occupied by a salt pile, and they would have to restore it to habitable by cars, and then there would be a public open space at the end. And then this just shows the west elevation of the site. So the apartments here, office with institutional facility building in front, and then the low-rise, the roughly 8-story, but very high floor-to-ceiling heights. I'm sorry. Okay. This would be the production studios. It would have the catering hall on top, and then ground floor retail. The special permits and authorization related to modifications to the height and setback provisions. A 1,400 space public parking garage, and then a sign that is not allowed by waterfront zoning. So there were a number of height and setback modifications that were requested, basically relating to the heights of the buildings. They exceed what's allowed at the waterfront. The maximum width of a building facing the shoreline. Buildings that exceed the maximum base height, and building, and I believe that actually covers all of the height and setback modifications. The 1,400 space public parking garage would all be below grade. Under the zoning, only 225 spaces are allowed as of right, so the special permit was required for the 1,400 spaces. And then in terms of the sign, the zoning text amendment created a special permit provision for a sign in this particular zoning district along the waterfront. So Silver Cup filed for the special permit. They are proposing a sign that's roughly 195 feet in width and about 40 feet off the ground, and then the sign itself would be an additional 40 feet. This was referred to the community board for comment, and the community board recommended in favor of the renewal, 28 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 abstention. The community board also took a second vote that suggested that Silver Cup amend the amount of their affordable housing to 20%. The community board letter referenced a 10% approved rate. It was actually 15%, but when Silver Cup was at the community board, it was 10%. It was the City Planning Commission that, during discussions with the City Planning Commission, they increased the percentage to 15%. The second vote of the community board also recommended that Silver Cup explore using neon technology instead of LED technology in the sign to make it more historically authentic.
Thank you, Penny. This
You're
is, well, questions. Ms. Efron.
Hi. I apologize as somebody relatively new to the process here, but when you say the Power Authority hasn't vacated the premises, have they negotiated to own the site and they just haven't left? Or is this something that is still left to be negotiated over time?
It's still left to be negotiated over time. The conditions of NYPA closing are predicated on the creation and operation of 2 new power plants to the north. Both of those power plants are operational and have been for several years. There hasn't been a development, the Silver Cup has been actively negotiating with developers since the project was approved. And they have not been able to strike a deal with a developer that would allow them to officially go to NYPA and request that they ultimately shut down. It's the mayor and NIPA that jointly determine whether or not the power plant should be shut down.
Okay. Second
So
question.
the capacity requirements are in place.
Okay, I had one other question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Um,
go ahead.
Just one other question. Is this area along the waterfront subject to any discussed ferry routes where that might be a concern if it weren't amended to include room for a ferry stop currently?
Farther south, but not this particular site.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is non.
Any other questions? Ms. Delos?
So going back to your point, Penny, about the mayor and NIPA must together approve of that particular site closing. So can you maybe just talk a little bit about how that process at all interacts with this process? Because it seems that the community board's request that it go from 15 to 20%, the mayor's involvement in that approval is a leverage point to help achieve that goal.
Yeah, I have talked to the applicant as well as their land use council as to their negotiations with the state. And they have not been able to make a lot of progress with NIPA in terms of their interest in shutting down their facility.
And can you talk at all about how Terracotta responded to the community board's request to increase the percentage of affordable units?
They believe that the amount that they offered during the public review process is the appropriate amount. They did an analysis, this goes back to 2006, obviously, but at that time, they analyzed, for example, putting 10% of the affordable units on site and concluded that it would result in a $51 million revenue loss for that particular provision. Since this is, in their minds, an economic development project, the prime driver here is the motion picture and production studios. They need the subsidy from the apartments to help subsidize the studios. So they believe that they have provided the number that works for them.
Affordable housing subsidy can't go to cross-subsidize anything but the affordable housing.
No, they're using the revenues from, they need as many market revenues, yeah.
Ms. Levin?
Penny, did the changes in flood-proofing requirements have any impact on the design of the project and the special permits?
No, it actually does not. They took that into account when they were, this site is actually pretty high relative to the rest of the waterfront. So they were, with the exception of 43rd Avenue, which they did have to, bring out of the floodplain, this project is fine.
Okay, so that's not a changed fact for this
No.
purpose?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, the only change to the facts is that, as with the first renewal, the amount of traffic has actually gone down, and it went down again this time over the previous 3-year period.
Let me just say, I think it's fair to say that at best, and hoping for the best, this project will come back here. We are being asked to renew the special permit for 2 years?
3.
3 years. And the likelihood of this project vesting, the power plant leaving, the deal being made, the developer being found, and then the project actually vesting by a foundation within the renewal time period is remote. So a lot will change by the time this comes back here, and so I suggest since they are entitled to a renewal of their permit, that we simply by a show of hands assent to a renewal of their permit to the Department of Buildings, recognizing that if all goes well, we will see this project back here, which is fundamentally, I think, something that we've all considered a good project, with perhaps some changes down the line, but we won't know until it gets back here what those changes might be. And I'm not aware of a power plant that has nimbly relocated in 3 years. So with that, I would ask for a show of hands to renew their permit, and hopefully they will find a developer and get going. All agreed? Silver Cup is looking for a development partner, is that?
That's correct.
Okay. So with that, thank you. Thanks, Penny.
Thanks, Penny. Let's now move to item number 12, page 557, proposed City Planning Commission certification that no easement is required on a property located at 2086 Second Avenue within the special Second Avenue Transit Land Use District in East Harlem. This is item number 12, page 557. Our presenter is Beverly.
Good evening, commission members. The applicant, Franklin Plaza Incorporated, is requesting joint certification pursuant to section 95041 of the zoning resolution that a transit easement is not required at 2086 Second Avenue. The subject zoning lot is located on the southeast corner of 108th and Second Avenue. The administrative process has two steps. First, a determination is made jointly by the MTA and the City Planning Commission as to whether or not a transit easement is required. And second, should one be required, a final certification is made on a specific easement volume. As indicated in your briefing package, there is a piece of correspondence from the MTA. They have determined that the transit easement volume is not required on this zoning lot. In the meantime, the applicant intends to convert and enlarge this one-story storage room, which will be used to accommodate 3 new boilers at this location. This site is situated within Franklin Plaza development, which is comprised of 8 buildings on this particular block of Mitchell-Lama housing. The surrounding area is primarily residential with ground floor retail on 1st and 2nd Avenue. This application was referred to Community Board 11 on September 16th, and the Community Board supports the application.
Thanks, Beverly. Any questions about this? We're going to try to see if we can get a sort of omnibus certification of all or many sites that
That's great.
the MTA no longer has its eye on as transit stations,
That'd be great.
so these don't have to come back
One at a time.
one at a time. But with that, I ask for your assent to send an approval letter to DOB certifying that this is no longer needed as a subway entrance. Thanks, Beverly.
Okay, thank you for boilers.
Let's now move to item number 13, the proposed city council modification to the previously approved special permit concerning 19 East Houston Street. And Edwin will share that modification with us. And the proposed response.
Good afternoon, Chairman Weisbrod. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is a City Council mod for 19 East Houston Street. We have placed a copy of the Council's mod letter in your Friday package. For the benefit of the new Commission members, that's a rendering of what the building is proposed to look like. On August 20th, the commission voted to approve 3 special permits and an application for the disposition of city-owned property to facilitate this project. What you have here is the building as approved in section. The 3 special permits call for the placement of local retail use below the second level. That's indicated in the blue here. This is the cellar level. This is the first level. A special permit to approve modification of height and setback regulations so the building can exceed the maximum base height that's indicated in the gray here. And also a 3rd special permit to allow retail use with no limitation on floor area. Retail use would be placed as approved by the commission in the cellar, first level, second level, and 3rd level as shown by those red dots. In response to concerns raised by area residents and elected officials, on September 29th, the applicant withdrew the application for the special permit to allow retail use in excess of 10,000 square feet or no limitation on floor area. As modified, the building will not have retail use on the 3rd floor. This is a section of the modified proposal. The area in blue is where the local retail would be placed. This is the cellar. This is the first level. Retail use is allowed on the second level as of right in this district, but there is no retail use on the 3rd level. That's a function of the application being withdrawn by the applicant. So in the modified proposal, retail use will be in the cellar, first, and second floors. This modification will reduce the retail floor area by about 4,700 square feet from roughly 17,000 and change to a little less than 13,000 square feet. Nothing else was modified by the council for this project. We have found that the city council mod is within scope and does not raise any issues.
So one of us had the wisdom and foresight to see what was going to happen here. And perhaps we all should have followed her lead. But in any event, by a show of hands, we should notify, if you were sent to the council to indicate that there's no further need for review on our part, and as modified by the council, so it shall be.
So the rest is, the remaining floors would be just commercial office space?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, commercial office space.
Okay.
Thanks,
That's it.
yeah, thanks, Edwin.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Edward.
so on Wednesday, Commissioners, favorable resolutions have been prepared for the following 2 projects. One is the auto showroom text amendment, which involves automobile, or which will facilitate automobile servicing and repairs on property located within sub-area 1 of the 42nd Street perimeter area of the Special Planning District. And the other one is 236 Richmond Valley Road, which is a series of special South Richmond Development District land actions to facilitate commercial development in existing M31 district. Joel is here because on November 5th, we have the 37 Great Jones Street proposal, which involves a special permit to facilitate retail and residential use. You did receive a letter in your package from the applicant, and we plan now to lay out where we stand with respect to the concerns raised during the public hearing process.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. So just wanted to walk through that letter that was in your packages from Friday. There's really 2 things that I want to point out. The first is, again, just the request to, yeah, bless you, the request to just delay the vote. So we will be delaying the vote until November 5th. And then also, just kind of in response to some of our questions about, or your questions, about the actual ground floor retail use. It was kind of being described as, they were trying to say there was some kind of art studio use in there. So they were very clear in the letter that you all received that it is, in fact, just a retail establishment. Nobody's making anything in there. So that's good to have that clarification. And then regarding the second floor occupancy, we've asked the applicant to deliver a few things to us before the vote. The first is sworn affidavits from the applicant and the current resident basically saying that a lease has been terminated. And then also just an agreement on that from the applicant that we can actually go and inspect the second floor to really confirm that the second floor is not being occupied. So the applicant has agreed to those, has agreed to provide that. They know that, you know, they have to do this very quickly because we have the vote coming up in a few weeks. So we'll keep you posted when we, and basically the goal for us is to get those documents by next week. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Questions to Joel about this campaign?
Joel, our right to inspect, is it immediately after the lease is terminated?
Well, we want to do it immediately after because
How many times thereafter?
right, we've asked them to do it basically the day after they have the space vacated, but
The question is, the lease can be terminated, we can do our inspection, and he can get the same tenant back,
sure,
okay?
right.
So what are we doing to deny that opportunity?
I think that that's something we should be thinking about down the road. I don't think we've.
Well, I
No, no.
would simply say, we're not an enforcement agency. However, we have been in touch with the Manhattan Borough President's office on this as well, and they share our concern, and I dare say that there will be by some entity or another follow-up, and I would think after what this applicant went through, it would not be dumb enough to actually reinstall a tenant until it was legally authorized to do so. We've seen a lot of dumb things over the years, so that's not impossible, but I dare say it's unlikely. But we'll watch it.
And we should say that the Manhattan Borough President their staff in their office will be joining us for that inspection, at least that first one. So.
Ms. Levin.
Yeah, well, so maybe the inspection ought to happen as close to November 5th as possible, because the issue for us is that we want to have certainty about the facts
Okay.
that we're voting on at that time.
Sure.
And I guess I just want to say, since I was the one who made a big ruckus last time about this, that clearly having the second floor vacated is helpful toward being able to approve the application. We are left with the reality that there is an illegal occupancy of the first floor.
That's right.
And so it is still troubling that an applicant would have tenanted that space before the application had been approved and the space could be legally occupied. But I guess the difference in that situation is that that occupancy was well-known, it was disclosed at the community board level, it was disclosed to the borough president. The community seems very happy with that tenant. So while the lawyer in me isn't happy about having that illegal use, I think the public process has been appropriately served here, and it wouldn't do anybody any good to try and remove that ground floor tenant purely for the sake of getting the facts to align with the original application.
That's right.
I'm prepared to vote in favor of the report, assuming that the second floor tenant is really gone, and I'm grateful to the staff for having taken this one seriously and tried to achieve a result that respects the integrity of our public review process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Is there any other business before us
No
tonight?
more? No more?
We're all gluttons for punishment. Thank you all for your patience today. It's been a long day, and the recompense is that Wednesday should be relatively short. So see you all on Wednesday.